Hello, everyone. Welcome to the FCG review discussions. This is the weekly discussion where Film Critics Guild members join and discuss the latest films that they have seen over the week. I'm Obro Das, the senior manager at the Guild, and I'm very happy to welcome two of our members today. We have Arnab Banerjee, who writes for the IANS and BBC occasionally. He's been a critic for many years. He lives in New Delhi. And we have Gopi Rajendran from Chennai. He writes for The Hindu. And Film Critics Guild, we are very happy to have them with us today. The members.
Hi, Obro. Hi, Gopi. Thanks.
Hi, Arnab. Hi, Abra.
Hi.
Hello. Film Critics Guild is a non-profit that consists of film critics from all over India. We are currently at 51 members, and we have members writing for the print and the digital and radio, etc. We are very happy to have Arnab Banerjee and Gopinath Rajendran with us today.
Okay, so this week I saw two films. One was Crew, which has three Bollywood actresses, and the other one is which released on Hotstar, called Patna Shukla. Both are diametrically opposite films. So we can talk about Crew first. Crew was much awaited because it was in the making for, I think, more than 2 years. It has a stellar star cast. Tabu, who's known for her wonderful performances, she heads the cast. And then there is Kareena Kapoor, who's also, done some very good work. And there is Kriti Sanon, who's one of the rising stars. The film is about, as the name suggests, three air hostesses who work for an airlines called Kohinoor Airlines. No prizes for guessing which airlines it is modeled on. They are very hardworking girls, and Tabu, being the eldest, is slightly senior, and Kareena is middle-aged. So she plays senior flight attendant. Junior flight attendant is Kriti Sanon. They really bond well, and they really kick up life. They have a wonderful relationship. Tabu is their senior who guides them, but they are they don't get paid well. In fact, they haven't been paid for 6 months. So that actually takes a toll on their family life. Tabu is married. She's planning to leave everything because she's worked very hard all these years, and she wants to settle down in Goa with her husband. The husband is played by Kapil Sharma. And then there is Kriti Sanon, who wanted to be a pilot. She trained to become a pilot. For some reason, she could not, because of recession, she could not find a good job. So she ended up becoming a flight attendant. Then there is Kareena Kapoor, who is someone who loves life. She's someone who loves to spend money, and she's someone who's always trying to enjoy life. So when they realize that nothing is working out, the airline's chairman, who's Vijay, I think his name is Vijay Walia. It's played by Shashwat Chatterjee. He is not willing to pay their salaries, and they really becomes a hand to mouth situation for them. So this is then that they decide to take an extreme step, which is they all decide to do something drastic, and they do something so weird that it really takes them to another world, and which is a world of crime. So that's the basic storyline about Crew. The film is marvelous in many ways because it talks about women's emancipation on the one hand and exploitation on the other, and it's quite a revelation that someone like Tabu, who did these kind of films early on in her career, is back to doing some fun films. She's having a lot of fun. In fact, all three of them are having fun. So that's the basic storyline. The other film is Ravina Tandon's Patna Shukla. This is an issue-based film. It's about a woman who is a lawyer, who's not a very successful lawyer. And finally, she lands up in a situation where she must put her best and earn some reputation, because nobody really thinks much of her. Her husband is a doting husband who loves her. She has a child, and she's a perfect wife. She's a perfect mother. She's a perfect daughter. She's a perfect wife. But for some reason, her career hasn't really taken off until one day she gets to know that there is one girl who wants her to take up her case. This young girl, uh, she cleared her exam, but for some reason the university failed her. So she says, the young girl says that she cannot fail because she worked really hard. So it is then that Ravina Tandon, as a lawyer, gets to know that there's been some ghapla. Somebody had exchanged her mark sheets. So it's an issue-based film. It's a very slow-paced film. Had it not been for Ravina Tandon, the lead star, the film would not have even surfaced. So both the films are in total contrast with each other. One is uh, having three actresses who are all very well known, and it's a very dynamic role for all three of them. The other one has Ravina Tandon, who was one time known as Ravishing Ravina. She still looks good, but the whole storyline is very weak, and even if it has some meat in the storyline, the execution is very slow.
Lovely, Arnab. Before I start with my films, which are not the Hindi films that you watched, Crew trailer was something that I really enjoyed actually because it sort of gave an idea on what the film is about, and I found it to be quite it gave a vibe that it's going to be quite a funny film. So, did you find that to be quite funny?
It is the highest comedy film. It is in many ways a comedy. There are
Right.
some serious issues being tackled in the film, but they're not. The director doesn't really Rajesh Krishnan doesn't waste too much time dwelling on them. So it is a fun film. Throughout, it's a joyride. Uh,
Right.
very breezy kind of a film, but there is more focus on comedy.
Right. So that's giving me a good vibe to check out the film. But unlike
Yes.
Patna Shukla, which I think it's been getting a sense of middling reviews all around, I suppose, compared to
Patna
Crew.
Shukla has a very important issue. In some
Right.
universities in our country, this is something very common. Either there was mass cheating till a few years ago, probably it still
Mm.
happens in many universities in
Like
our
how they
country.
showed in 12th fail. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the other issue is that a lot of mark sheets get exchanged. So
Oh, fascinating.
yeah, they do it deliberately. There are these very influential politicians and their sons who all out to fleece the government, and they are
Mm.
the kind of people who can get away with anything. So it
Mm.
takes somebody's guts like Ravina Tandon's. She's known as Patna Shukla. So she's the one who takes up their case, and as the film it becomes very predictable, because these kind of issue based films, they have a certain predictability, because you
Right.
know what's going to happen,
True.
and you start rooting for the character, because the character is really struggling and working very hard. So that way it becomes interesting. I just wished there was something more exciting to the
Hmm.
whole narrative. It becomes very predictable and very slow.
Right.
So good intentions really don't make a good film. I mean, if the
Totally.
director had all the good intentions, that's not enough to make a great film.
And we've seen quite a few films like that, right?
Yeah, we have all seen such films in India.
Totally. So I'll start with my reviews.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been quite an interesting week because I firstly cover Tamil cinema, but ironically, Tamil cinema has been on a downward slope for the last since the year started, and we've rarely had a couple of good releases this year. But our neighbors, the Kerala film industry, is churning out some of the best films.
Oh,
They
yes,
have
absolutely.
got an amazing spell going on right now. Uh, Thankfully, this week there are two of the biggest releases that I wanted to catch this year. And ironically, they both came out on the same week, and none of them happened to be Tamil films. One of them is the English film Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, which is a sequel that a lot of fans of the franchise have been waiting for. And the other is Aadujeevitham, Blessy and Prithviraj's long-awaited film, which has been in the making for quite a few years. So I'll start with Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. So it's there is this franchise called the Monsterverse where there've been films for the Kong and there've been films for Godzilla, and in the last film, Godzilla versus Kong, they actually had a face-off, and that was probably the crescendo for the franchise for me because that's where these two giants, these two titans, met each other, and they faced it off quite well, and it was quite an interesting film for fans of the franchise who just want to see these monsters in action. It
Yeah.
provides, and so to think of the new Empire, it's more of an afterthought because. for starters, they didn't plan this to be a part of the Monsterverse because of the fact that the last film turned out to be quite a hit. Just like every other franchise we've seen in Hollywood, they just want to keep making money out of it, I suppose. So this film feels more of an afterthought because in this film, they two have to team up together to fight another enemy. But thankfully, the story is quite interesting because they've introduced concepts like Hollow Earth in the previous films. So in this film, Kong is in the Hollow Earth, and Godzilla is taking care of Earth. He's like the protector of sorts
Okay.
from all the other monsters. Uh, but Kong finds out that he's not alone in Hollow Earth, and he has to fight. He finds another adversary. So Kong is this proper loner guy in Hollow Earth, trying to find some company because he's all by himself. But when he finally finds out there is company, it's not the good kind, and he realizes that he can't tackle them on their own, and he needs the support of Godzilla. So it's like a proper buddy cop film that we've seen both in equal shares in both Hollywood as well as Indian cinema, where two heroes team up together to fight the bigger baddie. Uh,
Right.
that's probably the story of the new empire in a line. The best part, obviously, is the action sequences where all these monsters come together and fight it out. There are a lot of smaller cameos and interesting references for the fans of the franchise who've been following it for almost a decade now. It's been actually, I think 2014 was when the first film from the franchise came out. So, like after a decade, the fact that this franchise is still relevant and still churning out quite interesting films is quite a big deal. So the best part is obviously the action, be it when Godzilla and Kong first have a fight and then they team up to fight the main baddie, who I don't want to talk about much because I don't want to spoil the film for those who are watching it, who are going to watch it hereafter. But the action sequences are where the film is in its element and it's brilliant. It's obviously CGI and it's a spectacle though because the possibilities are endless when it comes to CGI and with these monsters who can destroy worlds if they want to. Seeing them go head on with each other and teaming up and fighting another bigger monster, it's all fun. But it also feels like they've given the direction duties to a kid who wants to go all berserk, go all guns blazing at people
Okay.
because everything else apart from the action sequences are quite boring. I mean, they try to incorporate the human characters into the film, which they have not done a great job of, and that those are the parts which I found to be quite boring. It's quite fascinating because they had a new series which came out just a couple of months ago called Monarch.
Okay.
And the entire series, despite the fact that it also had Godzilla on one side, that series concentrated only on people, predominantly on people. And they did a good job of it. And ironically, we just had Godzilla Minus One, which came out last year, and it ended up winning the Oscars. And I think it's Japan's first Oscar, if I'm right. So, and that was also dealing with the after effects of a Godzilla attack and how a guy with PTSD deals with it. So, when we've got films that are dealing with the repercussions or the human repercussions of such monsters, Godzilla Kong, the New Empire deals predominantly with the monsters, which is not a bad thing, but when they try to incorporate the human elements, the human intervention, and how that brings a change to the larger scheme of things, it didn't really work out. And because of that, the highs are proper highs that are really enjoyable, and the lows are proper lows that really make you feel quite bad. Because I'm a huge fan of the franchise, and the fact that I expected this film to be better than the previous film, but it didn't turn out to be so. But the action sequences are still good, and the fans of the franchise will still enjoy the film. So that's the thing about Godzilla Kong: The New Empire.
Does
Aadujeevitham
it
is
does it work as a standalone film, or you have to be aware of all the characters because some of us may not have seen the earlier work
true.
films?
It will still work as a standalone film as well, but it will be nice if you have an idea about the past and
Characters. Yeah.
probably. I mean, it's quite a silly comparison to make, but probably you can compare it with the Doom franchise, for example, because
Okay. Okay.
you know they're all standalone films, but
Yes. Yeah.
it'll be nice if you understand the
To
camaraderie between
understand. Yeah. Yeah.
Abhishek Bachchan and his friend who
Right.
used to be a crook in the previous films, right? So
Okay.
yeah, it does help to have a bit of knowledge, and in this film there's a lot of exposition. Like the human characters end up explaining things to you because obviously the monsters can't talk. So wherever the director wants to fill you with information on what's happening, because there's a lot of magic, realism, technology. There's a lot of they bombard you with
CGI.
information at
Yeah.
the end of in the second half of the film. So for that to happen, the human characters, they just throw a lot of information at you, and they expect us to take that all in. But it's a bit too much because they could have spaced that out a little bit. But when it's action, it's amazing. So that's probably the best part of the film.
So it appeals to the young or to just anybody who's a cinema buff, anybody who
Uh,
likes action.
Anybody who loves action, like it, I would say it'll cater predominantly to the fans of genres like the superhero genre, where you're gonna keep the logic away and you're just gonna enjoy people fight it out, destroy cities, and have fun. It's that kind of a film. So if you don't mind the logic behind it, if you don't mind monsters running around Rome and France and everything like that, destroying coliseums and other major
Okay.
buildings, this is the kind of film that you will enjoy.
Okay. Okay.
The other film is Aadujeevitham. It's probably the most expected Malayalam film of not just the year, probably for a long time, because
Okay.
Dada Blessy is a veteran and Prithviraj is an actor who the entire nation knows, and he's been a part of every major film industry, right from Hindi, Tamil, Malayalam. Of course,
Yes.
Malayalam is his home turf. He was recently seen in Salar as well. So this is more of a dream project for Blessy, and it's actually based on a book about this immigrant who goes, a Kerala immigrant who goes to the UAE and mistakenly ends up in a different workplace where he's treated almost, not almost, he's actually treated like a slave. They turn him into a goat herd who spends quite a long time trying to figure out his way around, and finally gets a chance to escape. And the story encompasses the adventures and the trials and tribulations of this guy called Arjuna, if I'm right. So we'll probably cut the part where I mention his name. But the story follows the trials and tribulations of this man who tries to get a better life, and he kind of symbolizes the plight of many Indians who live abroad trying to make a better life for themselves and their families. And it strikes hard because he expected something and he goes to this new land and he ends up in a situation that he's completely unprepared for. Uh, One good thing is this film is actually based on true events. So the person who went through this ordeal, that this is his life, and thankfully he returned back home safely. So one good thing is we know that this film is not going to have a sad ending, but it also kind of deters the fact from the fact that we know this person is not going to die. He's a survivor. We know he's going to make it out. How is the question, and the film does a brilliant job at it because the film really hits home the fact that he has gone through hell, um, just trying to make a better living for his family, and to see Prithviraj go from being a regular guy to this scrawny, underweight, totally. Um, he has gone through a huge physical transformation for this film because according to the film, this character has been in desert for a few years. He's completely malnourished. And he is. There is a shot where he removes his clothes, and you see him being the skinny guy who hasn't had a good meal in years together, and whose companions have only been the sheeps and the goats and the camels that you see in desert. So the effort that's gone behind making this film is humongous, and I think this film is going to get a lot of awards, especially for acting as well as direction and the cinematic aspects of it. Because technically, this is one of the strongest films I've seen this year. Yeah, I haven't been. I'm a huge fan of A.R. Rahman, and I've been a constant follower of his work for years together now. But what he has done in South India for the last since this year began, he has had a couple of Tamil films in which in which his work wasn't particularly uh, great, not something that you would expect someone as big as Rahman to do, because it has been quite a disappointing year for his fans. But he has made up to it with Aadujeevitham. The film has some amazing songs, and the background score is amazing. Every time this guy, the titular, the guy who plays the lead, goes through something terrible, or whenever there's small successes, it's the music that elevates the mood for you, and it tells you, it completely mirrors the mood of the film in a really good manner, and it really gets the point home on what this guy is mentally going through. It's quite a strong film, to be honest. It's there's a lot to take in.
But it is end of the day, it's a mainstream film. It's not.
I wouldn't call it a mainstream film. It is a survivor film. It's a thriller in a
Okay.
way, because you don't know what's going to happen to this man. He's
Okay.
there with his friend who's technically a kid, and
Mm.
these two guys are in the middle of nowhere, stuck without any chance to call for help, or they don't even have the option to make a phone call to their home to say that they've reached this country. So ever since they landed here, they're completely lost. and the fact that their families, imagine the ordeal the families have to go through for all these years without even having a single call from
Mhm.
them. So the film does a great job of that, and it's really a painful film to watch, considering the fact that it's actually based on real life incidents. But at the end, it actually doesn't get preachy. It's just a slice of life of this person
Okay,
who
okay,
went through
slice of.
hell. But that's quite a I wouldn't use the word disturbing, but it's quite a heavy film to take in. So, and it
Okay.
takes its time to roll. And there are portions where you feel the film could have been a little bit faster. There are some portions which you wish had been shorter. But you do understand why it takes its time, because they literally want you to feel the pain of this man, who in the climax has to go through the harsh desert conditions to escape from that ordeal. That stretch was quite a lot, but you do understand why they've done it. So I think we have to give them that for that.
You know why I'm asking you this? Because in many parts of our country, there still is a distinction between serious cinema and typical masala film, which
Yeah,
shouldn't be. So
exactly,
it's a good film is a good film.
totally. And Malayalam cinema is always revered in the fact that they don't stick to the norms of a film being commercial
Yes,
uh,
arty.
not a mainstream artsy film. Yeah, and they've done a great job at it. They're probably the pioneers of it, if you ask me.
Mhm.
Probably on par with Bengali cinema, and they've
Right.
been doing a great job at it as well. So
Oh yes,
this
yes.
is this is yet another brilliant story from Malayalam cinema, and who've been having an amazing spell. They had Premalu, they had Manjimal Boys, and
Mhm.
of course the entire Mammootty list of films that you've been giving us for the last 2 years now. So it's a brilliant addition, and I'm pretty sure this film is going to get a lot of awards. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being the next entry for the Oscars from India. So I hope it does, because it's got all the necessary bits to be a winner in all the award ceremonies out there. So hoping these people get the recognition they deserve.
So I really wish that Crew, a film like Crew, does well at the box office, because there is a lot of excitement among the film watchers. Not only because of the storyline, but also because of the cast. It's a very interesting cast.
Yeah.
Tabu, who's always known for her powerhouse performances. Like I said, she's doing a fun film after a long time, and Karina is in her element completely. She looked great, and
Hmm.
there is some substance to it also. It's a fun film all the way, but they have taken up some issues which normally are used, or probably part of a very serious kind of cinema,
Hmm.
like the middle class values. All middle class girls, they are seen working, and they have a whole lot of responsibility to shoulder, and
Hmm.
yet they're not given their due. Here, the
Right.
same thing is happening, but these are not the kind of girls who would just sit and mope. They just want to go to a pub and enjoy life. They drink, they swear, they use all kinds of language, colorful language, if they have to give vent to their innermost, pent up desire, or their anger. So that
Hmm.
that way, it's a very interesting character sketch of all the three. On the other hand, Ravina Tandon looks nice. Uh, as I said, it's an issue based film, but the whole thing, just the whole fight against the system and against corrupt politicians, it just peters off because
Hmm.
of a weak script, and also because there are no other characters who stand by her. It's a lone
Hmm.
battle, and yet her performance, or her deeds are not lauded. So
Hmm.
towards the end, she's like the mata, who's a great mother and a great wife, and now she proves to be a great lawyer also, a crusader of sorts. Yet, and
Hmm.
there is no, uh, there's no celebration of any kind. So that I didn't like much.
Hmm. And as far as my films are concerned, as I told you earlier, Godzilla, Kong, New Empire was one of the biggest films of
Yeah.
Hollywood this year. And on the other hand, we've got Aadujeevitham, which is probably the biggest film I can expect from Malayalam this year. And both film has their share of pros and cons. But I think if you ask me to pick one among them, I would obviously go with Aadujeevitham,
Right,
which is
right.
probably the one of the best films I've seen this year. And I hope it gets the accolades that it truly deserves, because I'm pretty sure it's going to go places. And on the other hand, Godzilla Kong is it's a perfect I think it's the masala film I was looking for this year. It's just
Okay.
that I wasn't expecting
You
Hollywood
need
to give
that.
that
You
to me.
need to watch a masala film also.
Totally.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
film where the hero thrashes the baddie and the baddie
Yeah.
goes flying for a few kilometers. And I wasn't expecting Hollywood to give that to me this year, but Godzilla Kong gave that. And for the franchise, it's really yet another fun film. But for those who are quite new to the franchise and who haven't seen the previous films, this could be quite a lot to take in, considering the human characters are not that great and they don't gel well with the rest of the film where the monsters are providing all the entertainment. So that's it from my end for these two films,
So
and I think it's been
my recommendation this week would be Crew, definitely. It's a fun joyride all the way. For all those who are looking for some masala and pure entertainment, they must watch Crew. You can watch it at home, but there's not. It's not a very exciting film.
right. And for me, the both films I've watched, they're all visual spectacles, no matter whether they're good or not. Both Godzilla, Kong, as well as Aadujeevitham, they deserve you to go out, catch it on the biggest screen possible.
On the screen, yes.
Aadujeevitham, because of the fact that the frames, every single frame is a piece of art, and catching it on the biggest screen is probably the best way to experience that. And Godzilla and Kong being a CGI fest, it's a visual spectacle. There are a lot of colors, there are a lot of elements which would pop out better if you see it on a bigger screen. So if you are planning on catching both these films, I would recommend you to catch it on the biggest screen possible in your city. Probably an IMAX, but even if not an IMAX, probably the biggest screen you can get your hands on. So that's it from my end.
Okay, look forward to seeing them, both of them.
I'm looking forward to watching Crew as well. Hearing some good things. So probably I'll catch it this week.
Yeah.
All right, lovely. Thank you so much, Arnab and Gopi, for joining us this week.
Thank you.
And do stay tuned for more such recommendations. We will be back again next week with 2 new FCG members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good day, guys.
Good day.